Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Epidose of these crazy fools that just eat meat and talk about how everybody else should probably eat meat as well. Today, I've got a host of the usual suspects, and today's topic is all about language, vocabulary, and why we think a lot of the things we take for granted really need to change. A lot of things we were brought up being told just aren't correct. And we're here to stick a big wooden stake in the heart of the plant-based community and all their double speak. So, anybody got anything they want to lead off with? Should we make Bart talk since he just got back from the grave?
Yeah, maybe. I think the one that always gets me probably first and foremost is this whole use of the word balance in nutrition. Now, the idea there, sorry, you will have to excuse my voice today. I've been flat on my face with something. I don't know what. I have been ill for the first time in 3 years, and it was a real good one. So, yeah. Anyway.
That's because you're not vegan, right, Bart?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Or the other way to look at it is I actually kicked its ass in 2 days. And I am sitting here in front of you today. I'm not perfect, rightly in terms of the health quite yet. The trajectory is good. So there you go. Balance and nutrition. Balance is synonymous with fairness, justice, goodness, and light. None of those things are actually relevant to how any given species should gain its nutrition, which it should do according to its niche in the ecosystem. Chimpanzees have one, we have a different one. That's why chimpanzees and us exist together, coexist at all, even though we don't get on that well. We haven't wiped out the chimpanzees because they're in a different niche, for example. Our particular niche was obligate hyper carnivore, hunter, scavenger, sometimes collector when there wasn't anything to hunt or scavenge. So the best balance in nutrition for humans is one based on traditionally what our genes expect us to eat, the things that we have eaten over the last 350,000 years as a species, in my opinion. And those things are borne out by the N15 isotope data, and it's the flesh and fat of animals. So
Do you think chimps should take more supplements?
Yeah. Look, I think chimps do take quite a few supplements. Many of them are subscribed to Dr. Joel Kahn, for example, and other such pushes of snake oil and whatever else that those guys like to push. Mm-hmm. And apparently Thomas DeLauer as well can be on that list now with his vitamin C shilling. All these kind of things. So yeah, that was my opening gambit. Balance and nutrition. What an absolute nonsense word. It means nothing. It's a spin doctory. It's a way of trying to psychologically associate an array of different things that purport to be food as being a good thing. And that you're just expected to just go, oh, obviously, of course, balance is great. Variety, of course, we must have variety. No, what we must have is species-specific and appropriate nutrition, I think. Anyway, Somebody else talk so I can cough my lungs out some.
Yeah, no, I think the whole balance thing too is if you ask 10 different people what balance is, you're going to get 10 different answers, right? So it's this thing that we all kind of tangentially believe in, but nobody really could. I doubt we could get any sort of cohesive explanation of. Apparently, they're out of Kleenex down in New Zealand, but they have plenty of toilet paper. So it is on the other side of the world, so everything should be upside down. So about who else?
It's so cheap down here. We're just using it to wipe our asses with, Thomas.
Really?
Although you have to queue for sometimes up to an hour to get into the supermarket to buy any, but there you go.
It's just as bad as here.
Go on, Justin. I cut you off there, son. Sorry about that.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting thing. So, they believe that you should eat a balanced diet. The key word there, believe. It's like, well, I mean, you can believe whatever you want, but that doesn't still make it any more true, you know? And so I always kind of have that argument with people. It's like, okay, well, you believe in that you have to have, you know, the carbs, you know, that's a big thing. Like carbs are an essential part of a diet, you know?
Right.
And it's like, well, I mean, why, how? Like, well, I just believe it. And they just get like frustrated and walk away, you know, and then you laugh and it's funny. But then 6 months later, they're like, I got all these issues. I see you being carnivore. What's going on? Or cutting the carbs. And then you're like, what? Why are you coming to me? I thought you had this all wrapped up, you know?
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
I believe as a carnivore, I've got the perfect balanced diet. It's a ribeye. 50% protein, 50% fat. You can't go wrong there. Carbs are, as already known, non-essential. It is non-essential in science, so therefore it should be non-essential in my body too. Simple as that.
Science, bitches, science. Yeah.
But the problem is you've got doctors telling their patients that they need to go on a balanced diet, and they're not going to listen to a scientist. They're going to listen to a doctor.
You've got doctors telling people that they have to eat carbohydrates too.
Even if it's in their textbook that says essential carb, there is no such thing as essential carbohydrates.
Right. They'll still, like guys like Milton Mills will still get up on his hind legs and say, you cannot live without eating carbohydrates.
Well, I mean, I do want to say as a nurse, though, the nutrition education we get as a nurse and as a doctor is maybe 1 hour in our whole training at best. I didn't even really have nutrition training. It was just like one chapter of a book that you're supposed to read on your own. And that was like it.
And did that chapter say avoid saturated fat, get your diet
of course,
up 65% healthy whole, isn't it? Healthy whole grains is another one for you.
Oh,
Have the fiber.
Healthy fiber, putting the word healthy in front of something because you want to. Healthy fruit.
Oh,
healthy fiber.
And also even in my personal training, because I did like a personal training education too in a university. And the book they told us to read, it was like a nutrition book, and it just said like carbs are the primary energy source. You cannot have anything else other than glucose, and you know.
Yep. Carbs for energy. That's their argument, isn't it? You need your carbs for energy, and then you go, oh well, how much energy is there in carbs? And they'll say, I'll tell you exactly. It's 4 kilojoules per gram. And I say, fantastic. How much energy is there in protein? They'll say 4 kilojoules per gram.
What? Don't use science.
Science, bitches. Science. Yeah. Oh, good. So there goes that one.
Well, you brought up a good point about language right there, Bart. Is like they put the word healthy in front of something, and there's no justification. It's just an assumption, right? It's like it's like weaving some sort of magic over people's minds. Just throw that special word in there. It's like walking in with a lab coat on, you know.
Yep.
How about you,
now,
Corina?
Charmaine? Wait, real quick.
ahead.
I want to find out, Charmaine, in one of those textbooks, did you ever see the not essential part of the carbohydrates? I mean, was that actually talked about? No? Okay.
No, they were saying you need like it was really glorifying it just said everywhere, carbs, like you need carbs, like it was crazy.
But is it me or is this well known in science, right, Bart? About non-essential carbohydrates,
yeah, absolutely.
Right?
No, there are
just making sure.
It is well known in actual
science. I don't think
science.
that's really popular though in the health world. Like, I think that's still I don't think that's taught.
Yeah, look, here's the reason why. The reason for it is that the thing I gave about protein there was pretty facile, to be fair. Okay, because although nominally there are 4 kilocalories per gram in protein, your body doesn't oxidize protein unless you have no other fuel sources left. Protein is used for building your body, and as such, effectively, it contains no energy. So, of course, given that we must absolutely avoid fat because fat will kill you, that leaves us with one option, isn't it? And it's carbohydrates. That's why they say you must have carbs for your energy, not because carbs are essential. They know carbs are not essential. They also know damn well that fat not only contains more energy per gram than carbs, but will not kill you, actually, or do you any harm at all. They know that too. if it's the right sort of fat, of course. We don't want any oils. We want saturated as possible. We want animal fat, ideally, or coconut fat, which is also highly saturated, for example. So there's that one.
All right, so let Corina give it a crack. What do you say on the subject? Having been a long-term vegetarian, what sort of key words did you hear that sort of made it seem like it was the right thing to do? Well, we could come back to it. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, I have another word: calorie restriction.
Yeah, calories in, calories out, right?
Calories in, calories out. But not just that. That you know how they practice. Oh, you have to be a certain. If you're this. Actually, they don't even go by weight. They just say, oh, men should have 2,000 calories, I think, or 2,500. I don't remember. And women 1,500. It's like, wait, but any animal would do that. You would measure their weight first, then you would decide their calorie intake, right? So I don't quite understand this whole part, the calorie restriction idea of losing weight.
What is a daily recommended intake for a chimpanzee, by the way? What do they go by?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the Council of Chimpanzee Medical Science Specialists, headed by Dr. Joel Carnivore, I suspect, who will tell you all about that.
So apparently the hunger mechanism is so completely inaccurate that we have to manage the actual calories. And of course, by any model, if you ate just a tiny bit too much every day, you just keep gaining weight.
That's why you get fat. That's right.
That'll be why every other species on the planet has got fat and died out, and humans haven't got fat.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're the ones who realize we have to manage our caloric intake and not listen to our bodies giving us the messages to when and what we should eat.
Now, to be fair, if our carbohydrates, I do believe, kills the hunger signal. So it does scramble it. At least for me, it did. I can eat carbohydrates without stopping. So
you're not special in that regard.
Okay, of course, right.
We're all like that, I think.
Yeah, we have this genetic predisposition that tells us if you can get some carb, get it. It was going to taste good. You're going to get a dopamine reward, because throughout the last 350,000 years, there simply was not a great deal of carb to be had. So when we could get it, it was like, oh yeah, have it. That's why we've still got an amylase gene, or several copies actually, depending, from person to person. That's why it's there, because it was one of the things that made us able to survive some events that other species did not. Our ability to survive adversity. And believe you me, a diet which is based on carbohydrates is an adverse thing and will kill you sooner or later if you don't wake up, boys and girls.
Yeah, I like you brought that. You brought up the amylase thing, because we have both salivary and pancreatic amylase.
Yes.
And they say, cats are real carnivores because they don't have salivary amylase, but they also have pancreatic amylase.
Correct.
But you put a cat on a plant-based diet and they all kinds of metabolic damage in a hurry. It's just an accelerated version of what happens to humans.
Forget the fact that it'll kill you. It's how miserable you're going to be. You're going to wish you died. And that was my case. I was wishing that I could die.
Yeah. With all the it starts with the heartburn, the bad mood. Then it's the severe indigestion.
Going to the bathroom, having bloody stools, etc.
Oh, God.
Sorry, I shouldn't have that.
What were you eating? My God.
No, it was bad.
Ray wants to try and physically knock himself out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Charmaine's new here. Charmaine hasn't been through us before. She
Maybe
doesn't
I
know
shouldn't have
what
added that part.
Raymond would eat the bark off the trees.
Oh, that'll do it.
Wait. We have to see who has the bigger mug, Charmaine or Bart.
I know, right? Hold up your mugs.
Mine. Strong
Oh,
women,
wow.
strong world.
Strong women, strong world. Oh.
Hey.
And then he's got hearts on his.
I got little love hearts. Isn't that nice?
No, I don't like hearts.
Tiny amateurs. You see my giant
Yours
cup?
is
She's a
invisible,
strong woman.
Thomas. It's invisible.
You should
Well,
see
I'm-
Charmaine.
From the other episode we did, I'm trying to drink a gallon of water a day. Just kidding.
Oh Jesus! Dang.
After
You
you got
should-
reamed by Dr. Lisa, there you go.
Yeah.
You should get what's his name to be your water drinking coach. What's his name again?
Right.
So anyways,
Sorry, we're getting way off topic.
On to another topic. Yeah. Oh, you know the one I like is eat the rainbow. You know, it's like it's become a candy slogan now. But they say, oh, you should eat all these fruits and vegetables of different colors because it means you're getting all these different antioxidants. And they never talk
Skittles they consider healthy, right?
Yeah. You just milk
These
them
are
right out of a
rainbow.
giraffe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
On a
so
beach in
I say,
Jamaica. Go ahead.
I say to them, have you ever found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? It's just
Oh.
false hopes. That's all it is.
Nice.
All you
Nice joke.
all you find is some
What?
mean little leprechauns trying to jack you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I used to do juice fasts, and trying to get the rainbow of a juice fast was like ridiculous. You spend like $60 on fruits and vegetables for
Oh,
food for
God.
like 3 days, and like just like all like an apple and your spinach and your kale, because kale is like magical. You eat enough kale and you will become Jesus Christ. Like that's the thing. Like we will walk on water. You'll separate the Red Sea. I know that was Moses, but just anything is possible through kale. You know, just so important. Yeah, it's like a magical vegetable.
And you guys know
Yes.
where kale came from?
Well, it's a
Kale.
cabbage, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kale is-
Brassicas?
Kale is a vegetable invented by man. It was meant to be cheap fodder for animals, but it wasn't fit for the animals to eat. So they decided humans needed to eat it.
We're the only suckers that would eat
Yeah.
that.
It is a brassica, and it's full of oxalate. Good stuff. Yeah.
Isn't it also high in pesticides?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
you get the organic kale. Not only do you have to eat the rainbow, you have to eat the organic rainbow
The
because
organic
eating the
rainbow.
conventional rainbow will kill you. So that was the other trick that you had to
God.
do. And then throwing a fit if they only had the basic kale, because you couldn't have basic bitch kale. You had to have the purple kale, the veiny looking,
Yeah.
like meaty.
Oh,
Like,
now
it
I like it. He's talking about purple veiny things. I'm listening.
Like, you know, it had to be that one. And, you know, you end up talking to the manager and busting a Karen to like, because you're upset because there's no purple kale, you know, and like that was life. Like, so, like, why? Like, it's so miserable. Like, you look at it and it looked like it was going to harm your body. And you're like, this is good for me. It tastes completely terrible. You know, throw in your apple cider vinegar and your apple and your manuka honey. And then your like just whatever, just to make it taste all right. And
Don't
geez.
forget the chicken tenders made out of grapefruit pith.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about
Yeah,
that.
there's a woman that has this channel, and all she does is make vegan substitutes for actual human food. Like she made some egg yolks out of tomatoes.
Oh, I heard of that.
It was amazing. The whole thing was it was magic. She's an alchemist. This woman. She's actually a witch. I think is what it is. She's a witch. We should burn her. But actually, you know, she makes all sorts of things. And one of the things she made was breaded chicken tenders, which were actually breaded grapefruit pith.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Well, here they use well, I know someone that's vegan and they've got a restaurant and they'll make chicken skewers and they use jackfruit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they think it's the closest thing. And he's trying to convince me that it's amazing, that I should try it. And if I try it, I'm gonna stop eating meat altogether. And I said,
Oh, Joe. You'll say, oh, Joe, you'll come twice, they'll say.
crazy. It's
Oh,
mad. This is the same person that was saying to me, oh, you know, you're going to clog up your arteries. This is when I was on keto. Oh, you're going to clog up your arteries with all that fat that you're consuming. It's very unhealthy. And I said to him, so can you explain to me why there's so many overweight vegans?
Oh,
It's because
Ooh, you went there.
They did it wrong. They did it wrong.
that was the exact answer. Oh, it's because they're not doing it right.
That's it.
Yeah,
There
that's
you go.
always the excuse. They're doing it wrong.
And there's a shitload of overweight vegans. It's crazy. It's so unhealthy. You know, they think that eating these, you know, these. There's a place here called Oakberry, and they do these cups full of just sugar, basically, and they think it's the most amazing thing. Go ahead.
One thing that kind of pissed me off in Game Changers was like they didn't mention anything about real food, and then at the end they kind of have all those recipes of like pancakes and cheesecakes and I was just like, oh my gosh, like they're just trying to encourage people to eat, like, you know, they say, oh, you could eat this way, but it's all like sugar, and they didn't emphasize the real food, so that kind of that got me a little irritated.
Well, did
you
you
can have
say,
all the pancakes you want?
Yeah. Well, Brian Sanders, he got hold of a photo of James Wilkes' wife's shopping cart, and it was full of shit.
Yeah.
There was I don't know if you guys remember, there was nothing healthy in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it was all snack food, cereal, and stuff like that.
Highly
packaged
processed,
food. Yeah.
just
Processed.
shit.
Wow.
There was no bundles of kale and organic carrots in there. It was all like wrapped in cellophane and, you know, potato chip bags.
Yeah, and then it also had those toxic recycled cardboard packaging around it, which Auntie Pim spoke about on her channel fairly recently.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Actually, I think it's on my channel, that particular discussion. We talked about this. She did some looking into it and found that a lot of the recycled cardboard packaging, food packaging, has still got the ink in it from previous uses.
Yeah.
At small concentrations, absolutely. But the actual thing that was in there was really, really toxic shit that will absolutely do damage to lipid rafts and DNA, and, you know, will really bring the fuckery to a cell. And so not good at all, actually.
Well, a lot of the times when you buy a high fiber cereal, like breakfast cereal, the fiber that they add to it is cardboard. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the source.
Oh
I mean, they're not for all of them, but for most of your mainstream high fiber cereals, it's just shredded cardboard.
Yeah, I thought it was sawdust that they put, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what, you know, cardboard really is, just kind of pressed out of sawdust.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
It's wood pulp. Yeah,
wood pulp. Yeah,
but they literally they do use sawdust. In fact, people get busted all the time putting sawdust in things like grated Parmesan cheese and, you know, stuff like that. So
yeah.
Food's adulterated with the sawdust, you know, pretty frequently. But
that's definitely a thing.
That'll make your ass hurt.
Oh,
that'll clean you out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it also reminds me of a Simpsons episode where for some reason the cafeteria, they ran out of meat or something like that. So the lunch lady is like grinding up gym bags, like, and she says there's not a lot of meat in these gym bags. She's turning them into burgers to feed the kids. So like that's exactly what we're doing. And like, you know, another thing about the vegan movement, so like I was a part of the vegan movement for a long time. I never was like fully vegan. I must have done like a week or 2 weeks or something like that. But I was like, even though I ate meat, like I thought I was gonna die, and that like I need to promote like meatless lifestyles, at least for other people. You know what I mean? And so the thing that upsets me now with like the Beyond Meat burger and stuff like that is like, because there was a component of the vegan movement that was very anti-corporatist, pro-environmentalism, like the hippie type, you know? And it's weird how when Beyond Meat Burger and the other ones came out, like they just forgot to look about like chemicals and stuff like that. Like it became more just like, oh, as long as you don't eat meat, you could eat a bunch of chemicals, you could eat sweets, all that stuff. And I feel like they lost their values. You know what I mean? And so like, I just saw that really, really bugged me. You know, it's like eat the rainbow, but you know, Oreos are also vegan. So like what part of the rainbow is black? You know what I mean?
Yeah, even McDonald's food. They even recommend McDonald's food because it's vegan.
Wow. Really?
What Joy Armstrong, or maybe it was the other one. He was in a McDonald's or in another fast food restaurant, and he said that you can actually eat that because it's vegan. So it's very strange. And then what Justin mentioned, I really think it's I forgot what I wanted to say. Anyway, about soy. I mean, this is something that is really very not natural. It's not natural food, and it's very harmful. And why so many vegans gain weight? I think it's also because of the soy. Because soy also has
phytoestrogen.
estrogen, and then it has oxalates, and that will embed in the thyroid, and so probably the thyroid gets messed up. At least it was in my case. I had some symptoms, and many vegans do. They are also very cold all the time, or have dry skin, depression, and some other symptoms. And so I think it might be thyroid related that they gain weight, not only because of the sugar content, but maybe also because they eat so many tofu products.
Yeah,
Go
ahead.
I was curious how long you were vegan?
Hmm?
How long were you vegan?
4 years. And before that, 19 years vegetarian. And I ate a lot of soy products because I had a connection, a soy factory in Switzerland. So we could have all those products for a lower price. And they tried to, exactly as with the tomato egg, they tried to make it as meaty as possible, but it never tastes like the same. And that's you can never compare it to meat. It's really not the same taste. It's more chewy, and also it makes you sick and you cannot digest it. It's like feels like a stone in your stomach. Some soy products, you cannot digest it. So yeah.
It's almost like your body's not designed for that stuff, Corina. It's almost as if you're supposed to eat something else.
I recall.
And it's funny how they have to imitate it all the time. Why is everybody trying to imitate meat, eggs, and all that? Meanwhile, you don't see the reverse. It's not like anybody's like carnivore and trying to fake a broccoli or a soy product.
No, just Arby's, just to stick it in their face. Yeah.
That's right. I love that. I love that. Arby's did that.
If I'm not mistaken, I read some studies that came out quite a while ago showing that exposing infants, males in particular, to soy was bad for their heart development. So, and that's because the phytoestrogen actually is detrimental to the development of the heart of male babies. So, and then of course we've seen a lot of other instances where people apparently, they get gynecomastia or whatever from soy, so that's another problem. And I like to point out that a lot of this points back to the Seventh-day Adventists. They're the ones that decided that soy needed to be an industrial crop because they're promoting this Garden of Eden diet, which morphed into the vegan diet, and they needed more soy or more protein. So they said, well, let's try and make soybean an industrial crop, a food that was not eaten widely anywhere. It was kind of a condiment or whatever. In fact, most soy was eaten as a fermented side dish or something like that, and not really meant to be a source of protein. So this is all sort of a recent development. It's not like the people were drinking soy milk and eating soy protein shakes and stuff for thousands of years. So it's no surprise that it's not really good for us and really shouldn't make up the majority of our diet. It's a very poor substitute.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you?
How dare I?
How dare you?
Right.
So I have a question about that soy part. So with all the phytoestrogen, is it possible that, you know how with frogs that they can actually change the sex depending on the chemicals that they put them in certain waters, chemically laden? So now the question is could phytoestrogen be responsible for a lot of the sexual confusion?
Oh no! Don't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Oh, probably, yeah. Probably a
Are
few
you
jumps too
saying
far.
that-
Yeah.
Send your hate mail to
Maybe.
Raymond.
Maybe. Asking.
Are you saying they're turning the friggin' frogs gay?
Is that what it is? Gay frogs?
Gay
That's the
frogs.
problem with
Well,
society?
the frogs actually changed their sex, so yeah.
Yeah,
Male
yeah.
frogs
People
become
don't.
female.
People don't do that when you put them in temperatures, different temperature waters, and different. People don't change sex. Like
Right,
that.
right. Not change sex, but what about?
Well, I mean,
confusion?
Yeah.
if somebody wants to change their gender, they usually, a big part of that is hormone therapy. So
Exactly.
there's
what I was
hormones
thinking
in the
about.
food.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible, right? I mean, they make the same argument about all the birth control hormones that wind up in our water supply. That because regular water treatment plants don't have any capacity to break down the hormones that are in the water that gets recycled. So the hormone levels just in our drinking water, in municipal areas often changes just based on the contamination from medications. So. And that supposedly is having an effect on people. So high hormone levels, like phytoestrogen or something like that in soy, I don't see why if it certainly seems to have a change people physically, right? Their body composition.
Right, the gynecomastia, like what you were saying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So maybe, who knows?
The man boobs.
Man boobs.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the better word. Thank you.
I mean, we see customers come into the restaurant and they've got bigger boobs than their wives. It's just crazy. So.
One of the weirdest vegan substitutes I tried was algae eggs. So it was like
Algae eggs.
Yeah, so they were
God.
eggs that are sold as an egg substitute that was made from algae.
Oh.
And like it really weirded me out because it came in like an egg crate and it was like $12 for like 6 or whatever. But then you open the little egg crate and it was a packet like when you make Kraft mac and cheese, the cheese packet thing. I swear it was just like that. And like you were supposed to add like olive oil or avocado oil or water and mix it. And like it was just like the weirdest thing I ever tried as I tried to become more plant-based at one point. I think I gave away or I just threw away. I had it one time and I was like, I just can't. This is just not happening. I can't bring myself to do it. Yeah.
I have another one.
Go on. You go.
Vegan cheese.
Oh yeah, vegan cheese.
Daya. I had so much Daya.
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, I used to be a cheese lover before I discovered that I was intolerant to dairy, so I stopped it. And in Switzerland, we have really awesome cheese, so I sure know how cheese is supposed to taste like. And then, as a vegan, I tried vegan cheese. And it's no comparison. It's horrible, and they make it from peanuts. Not peanuts. What's the other one? Cashews. Sorry, cashews.
Wow, that's gotta be expensive.
That's gotta be expensive.
But have you ever read the list of ingredients?
Yes.
At the back, it's crazy.
It's an essay. It's a book. I have
exactly right.
The almond cheese, the Daya cheese. They have the cheddar, the provolone, whatever. Daya, which is that root, the yucca root, is what Daya is. And then they have a kitty. Is that a kitty, right? Oh, you cat. Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine. I have ADHD,
pets are welcome.
and I love cats. Yeah. what was I saying? Oh yeah, all the almond cheese, yeah, and like having to make your own almond cheese with the cheesecloth and all that. Yep, did it.
Oh man.
So much work.
Well, I was vegan for 1 month in college, and it was just like miserable. Like it was like the weakest I ever felt. Like my hair was falling out, my knees, my joints were painful all the time. It was, yeah. It didn't take me long to go back to eating meat.
And I think you would feel that much earlier because you do so much sport. I saw your pictures on Instagram. So everybody look her up on Instagram. They're such amazing pictures. Yeah, and so
Raymond and I were working out.
Yeah.
So you
She
would
can do serious push-ups.
I believe so. So yeah, when you do sports, you feel that much stronger. When you go vegan, you feel extremely weak.
Yeah, no, like when because I'm redoing the carnivore again, so I'm on day. But before I did 9 days of it, and I felt strong, like because usually when I do squats with a barbell, I have a little bit of knee, like I'll feel something start in my knee. When I did carnivore for 9 days, I felt really strong. Like when I was doing my heavy squats, like it was the heaviest I lifted in a long time, and I felt really good.
Oh.
But when I was vegan for a month, that was before I was into fitness. I was in nursing school, so I was in college. So I wasn't really exercising a lot at that point. But even if I was only like, I was a freshman. I was only like, how old are you? 18, 19? And yeah, and I was feeling weak. I was falling out. It was just like awful.
What you'll notice on carnivore is that you recover so much quicker. And it's not like, you can still back up the intensity day after day. Whereas before, I would go out and train, and it would, as each day would go on, I'd find that, the intensity just wasn't there. Mm-hmm. So that's something that you'll find. Yeah, and I know that Raymond said the same thing.
Joe trains fasted, so do I. So that's incredible for a guy who couldn't, I had to eat every 3 hours to, training fasted. Shush. And that's my best training. Isn't that right, Joe? That's
right. I mean, I did a fasted ride yesterday, and, I was just able to sit at, look, I've got a power meter on my bike so I can see how much watts I'm pushing out. And I was able to sit at, 220, 240 watts very comfortably for about half an hour.
Wow.
Nice. Pumping it.
I like to tell this story about when I was in college. I had a friend who was vegetarian. And back then it was considered bad to even eat chicken skin. So you're eating a lean chicken breast to begin with, but you're supposed to not even eat the skin because that's where most of the fat is, So I cooked these chicken breasts, and then I'd taken the skin off and I'm throwing it away. And my vegetarian friend is standing there. And he goes, "You can't throw the skin away. That's the best part." And he literally ate the chicken skins out of the trash can,
Oh.
And that just goes back to just like how much of this vegan food we see emulates either meat, eggs, or cheese or something like that, or dairy. And most of it's just highly processed junk food, Like you said, the list of ingredients reads like an encyclopedia or something, There's no way that's good for you, all that processed food. It's like all these pea protein based meats that they're promoting now. I don't even hear them say that they're better for you or that they're healthier, and I don't see how they could be. I mean, just flip it over and read the label and ask yourself what in this is nutritious. What is left that's real food when you eat this. It's all just fakery.
I used to make smoothies all the time because I thought when I was doing a lot of my workouts and all that stuff, I thought like, oh yeah, I need a protein shake, and I was doing the Vega protein because I was like, oh, this is healthy or whatever. But it never did anything for me. Like I just felt hungry within 30 minutes of drinking it, and I didn't notice any difference in my performance with or without it. So I wasn't sure what it was.
Yeah.
Well, I think the propaganda started early for all of us. I mean, who didn't see all these commercials for breakfast cereal, right? And we know that this whole thing with Harvey Kellogg started with him being a typesetter as a little boy for the Seventh-day Adventist. He grows up to be a doctor, and him and his brother invent the cornflake, and their whole intention was to suppress people's libido, have lots of bowel movements and suppress libido. And that really has nothing to do with nutrition, right? It's, if anything, that's anti-nutrition, Let's cram more fiber in so you absorb fewer nutrients, and let's throw your hormone levels off so you're less productive as a human being, but that all gets inundated when we're children, right? You see all kinds of cereal commercials when you're a little kid, at least in the United States.
Ignore the front that feels good, and make sure they actually have the arse end being torn out every day. That's what you should be going through. That's what the Kellogg's are after. Crazy.
Suppress your man time.
That's it.
That's man time.
So, I remember Popeye, he breaks open the spinach and that's makes him super strong and beat up Pluto. No, what was his name?
No,
Bluto.
Yeah,
Bluto. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, even behind me, so I'm a huge anime geek, and this is from a show called Death Note, and it is a good one. It absolutely is. And this is the lead protagonist, or one of them, named L. He's a super genius teenager child trying to solve these murders and stuff like that. But look at his food pyramid. It's all just cake and candies and sugar.
Oh, yeah.
And all literally throughout the entire show, while he's solving these murders, he's literally eating cake and candy and sugar. That's literally all he eats. And so it's if you tried that in real life, maybe as a teenager, we all do, when you're a teenager, you do feel invincible. You're chowing down on Red Bull and Oreos, and you can go run 8 miles and it doesn't bother you. At least you feel like it doesn't bother you, But, you grow up and then you start to have migraines and all these other issues, and you're sick, Yeah, you could run the 8 miles, but then every 3 months you're out, of the team because you're sick, And so it's just not worth it. And so, in the schools, so people complain when they determined that pizza was a serving of vegetable. Do you guys remember?
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
That was a big uproar over here. And so I get it. I get it being really funny of pizza being a serving of vegetable. I get the logic.
Is pizza not a serving of vegetables?
Well, yeah, and so they were upset about that the sauce on the pizza made it a vegetable,
right?
And so people were like, well, then you have to have it, none of the meat on it then for it to be healthy or something like that. And so it's in school you can't even have the choice to eat right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I want to tackle this. So processed food. So now we're hearing from nutritionists, ultra processed food. It's they just confuse the whole matter. Look, if it's not on the outside aisle, it's going to have to be processed. As simple as that, right? But they're telling you that those stuff are healthy because, oh yeah, it's processed, but it's okay. So now they're starting to use ultra processed. Well, bread is processed,
All cereal is processed.
All cereal is super processed, ultra processed, if you want to call it that. So now all of a sudden they added levels, and I'm like, wait a minute. It is or it isn't. It's just that simple, right?
What's the difference? Sorry, I don't. What's the difference?
Between processed and ultra processed, that's going to depend on who you ask. But they're trying to draw a line and say, oh, well, processed might be
white bread. White bread would be processed, but whole wheat bread ultra processed would be white bread. Whole wheat bread would be just processed but good for you. So you should eat that.
Oh, God.
Right. It'll hurt your head. I know. I never could get into that.
Well, this is the kind of message that gets passed on as, health science, right? There's no health science here. It's like saying, you're going to eat this vegan cheese made out of a bunch of processed crap is somehow better for you or the planet or whatever. It's all ridiculous nonsense, passed off as science. It's just, there's no science there. Except how to make
really
tasty
funny.
chemicals.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
It's also really funny because in the vegan plant-based rule, if you're really cool or really with it, you have your 7 ingredients rule, where you're like, oh, it's healthy if it has 7 ingredients or less, which is also really funny.
Even 6 of those are cyanide.
Right.
And so that's what's so great about eating carnivore is that you always, all your food should really be one ingredient. Meat, cow, pig, crab, lobster, whatever you're eating is the thing that you're eating. You're not like, and that's just so interesting to me. That's like, I was like trying so hard to follow that 7 ingredient rule the way I would eat before. And I would fail daily because it's like ridiculous, but it's so much easier to eat one ingredient being carnivore, And so it's just like, if you're trying to follow these little unprocessed environmental rules, carnivore beats the vegans and the vegetarians at the same game,
Hands down.
Let's take it on another piece of propaganda. I know there'll be some people in here that'll love this topic, but is breakfast the most important meal of the day? How many servings of anything should you get in a day? Are we supposed to get out of bed and eat even if we're not hungry? I mean, does anybody in their right mind imagine that, like, for millions of years as hominids evolved, that they just sprang out of bed and started eating because they knew it was good for them? They ate even though they weren't hungry. They drank 10 glasses of water. I mean, is breakfast the most important meal of the day? Let's start with that.
Charmaine probably wants to tackle that. Come on, that's what you've been talking about. Intermittent fisting.
Yeah,
intermittent fisting.
Fisting, that's right. Fisting. There you go. I'm sorry. that didn't come out right.
Well, I mean, I think I'm like trying to gather my thoughts because that brings up too many thoughts. But I feel like, where should I start?
We can let Ray start or something. You can take a minute.
Well,
yeah.
So usually in the morning, I'm not hungry. Now, early on, don't get me wrong, depends on what time I wake up. So, and somebody made a comment. Look, there were farmers that woke up at 4 o'clock. Yes, they'd have breakfast at 8, but they had 4 hours where they developed that hunger. And so this is why the point breakfast really came in. But nowadays we're waking up at maybe 6 o'clock. We maybe jump in the shower, 30 minutes later, we're already ready to eat. We don't have that timing right after we woke up where we did all kinds of other things before we ate. So breakfast actually doesn't make sense if you really think about it, because nobody's really hungry right when they wake up. If you are, then you're probably diabetic or something, but that might be a different story.
a really interesting point there is that it's the morning phenomenon, which is when your photoreceptors in your eyes and also in your skin, when they sense the light of a new day, what happens is your body automatically dumps a bolus of sugar into your bloodstream ready for action when you wake up, which points directly to, not only is breakfast not important by the way we live today, it's actually contraindicated because you're putting, and they tell you to eat, healthy whole grains for breakfast, of course, which are going to break down to what again? Oh, yes, sugar.
Or sugar in your bloodstream.
Or sugar. So you've got the morning phenomenon. Your body's already dumped glucose because light means glucose means ready for action. Wake up. Then you pour in some more sugar by way of healthy whole grains with sugar on probably. And then, you wonder why 10 o'clock in the morning, geez, I could eat a cake now.
Yeah.
Oh, now I need a cake. Nom, nom, nom. Oh, that was a lovely cake. That'll set me up for lunch in a couple of hours because I'll need to have that. which will be largely carbohydrate based, of course, which will lead me to want to eat again about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which will lead me to want to eat at tea time, which will lead me to want to eat some. How many meals are we up to now? Meals?
6 or 7.
Exactly. And why? Because people want to keep pouring sugar into their bloodstream, which is completely toxic and contraindicated.
I love how you broke that down, Bart. That really.
It's what I do. I'm here to help.
But I think a lot of.
How many meals in a day do the chimps eat?
Hey, do they eat breakfast? Do they eat breakfast?
The chimps will graze on vegetative matter a bit when they need to, but actually what the chimps will do is they'll get themselves organized into hunting parties, and they will go and find some monkeys to eat, because that's what chimps do. Chimps don't sit in trees all day eating fruit.
So you're saying you should eat monkeys for breakfast?
Yeah, they do. Probably. They'll probably go out in the morning and catch some monkeys. They probably won't. They'll probably use their morning phenomena bolus of glucose to kind of,
start the hunting
subserve
party.
That to fuel the hunt. Then they'll catch the monkeys, and then they'll bring the monkeys back for lunch, I would say. It seems to be what
I have seen them eat monkeys in some of the videos. It's pretty horrifying because they just tear them apart and
they
stuff
tear
them in
apart.
their face. Oh,
Yep.
it's disgusting.
Oh,
But chimps eat leaves and fruit, though, don't they, Thomas? Isn't that what chimps eat?
Yeah, they eat fruit and leaves. Yeah, they spend like 60% of their day eating. Can you imagine? You guys spend.
Yeah.
And then apes are even worse. They're like 85%, but they don't really eat much fruit. They just basically eat leaves and twigs and the occasional young gorilla. So
actually, that's I'm glad you mentioned gorilla, because a lot of people are like saying, well, look how strong and powerful the gorilla is. And I'm like, you seen the belly of a gorilla? I mean,
it's got a roid gut.
They have gigantic cecums, because they ferment that. They ferment the branches into leaves into fatty chains.
Into fat. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fatty acids.
So, what Bart was saying, when I was a fruitarian, then I, of course, had a lot of smoothies, actually, most of the time. And they were gigantic like this. Amazing. And I was hungry all the time. Yeah, like this, even bigger.
Did you have it first thing for breakfast too? Or how did that work?
Absolutely. Really? And I made like bottles that I took to work. And then at lunch, I felt completely faint, like started feeling jittery and not much energy. And when I compare it now to carnivore, I wake up in the morning and I'm not hungry. And then it happens now that sometimes I eat at 4 o'clock my first meal, and I wasn't hungry before. No problem. So it's a complete different thing to look. You can, as a carnivore, you just can go on, and in the morning you don't feel hungry.
So you have breakfast at 4 o'clock. How many monkeys do you eat it for?
About one.
One monkey. All right. One medium-sized monkey.
Right. Yeah.
I do have to say though, working in the hospital, I love eating. Well, even when I was keto and I could fast for like 20 hours, and so I would just eat like once in my whole shift and not eat, but everyone else around me is like they have to go on break at 9, and then they have to eat lunch at noon, and then they have to eat something at 3. Like they constantly eat in the hospital, just like 24/7, like surrounded by food. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's a lot.
But a lot of them think to themselves, how can I function if I can't eat? And so they're dependent on it.
Right.
But going back to the breakfast thing, I think a lot of people, I mean, especially here in Australia, I mean, they get up early in the morning, they go to work, and they think to themselves, if I don't eat now, I won't eat until 1, 2 o'clock, so I need to eat. So it becomes a mental thing as well, that they have to have their coffee and have to have their eggs on toast, or their eggs or their toast with jam and marmalade, fruit, smoothies, whatever. So I think that's why a lot of people on a standard diet think the breakfast is so important. They just can't sustain it from the night before till lunch.
I think a lot of people, you know, their job or whatever, taking their kids to school and stuff like that, completely throws them out of whack, you know, so you wind up eating and sleeping in unnatural intervals as it is. And then they start telling you, well, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And of course, people are busy in the morning. They're getting ready to go to work. They're getting their kids ready to take them to school. And then you get a guy like Wilford Brimley selling you oatmeal, telling you how nutritious oatmeal is, you know, so then you're eating this highly processed oatmeal for breakfast because you can make it in 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then 20 years later, Wilford Brimley's on TV selling you diabetes supplies shipped right to your home. You know?
Is it really the same guy?
It's the same guy. You can go on YouTube.
And this is true?
Yeah. Wilford Brimley, he was an actor, was on, you know, TV shows. And then he started selling, I think it was Quaker instant oats or something like that. And he would talk about how it's like this important start of the day, you know, and then he was selling the diabetes supplies shipped straight to your home. And if you go on YouTube, you'll see people have taken the commercials and spliced them together. So you can watch a couple of them in a row, or you can watch like 20 of them in a row. It's just hilarious because, you know, I mean, to us, we look at it and go, yeah, there's no way eating instant oats is a good idea. They're bad for your teeth. They're bad for your blood sugar, you know. And there was this period of time when I was a kid when they were telling you if you eat the oat bran, it would actually make your cholesterol go down. So people were eating oat bran for both cholesterol and I think blood pressure, they were saying. But then later on, the study showed it didn't really work, you know. And I remember how it was a big deal, you know. But even horses will get diabetes if you feed them too many oats. Just think about that. An animal that's designed to eat grass all day will get diabetes from eating.
Well, did you guys see the monkeys about bananas? If you feed them too many bananas, it's like cake for them. Yeah. So,
of course, if you let them eat natural bananas, you know, especially if they come from an area with natural bananas, then, you know, a natural banana isn't near as sweet. It's not near as big, and it's got a ton of seeds in it. But it's a lot different than eating a big Chiquita banana, which is really sweet and has almost no seeds in it, you know. So, yeah, and I get it. Bananas taste great. I mean, you know, that was one of my favorite foods when I was still eating plant-based stuff. And I thought an apple a day will keep the doctor away. I like bananas. Bananas are affordable. Apples are affordable. I used to eat all that stuff, and it just drove my arthritis into high gear. I could literally eat like an apple and my joints would start hurting worse. It only took like 45 minutes tops.
That was another language. Yeah, apple a day keeps the doctor away. I mean, I've known that forever.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then there's all the stamps. Oh, go ahead, Charmaine.
Oh, I was just saying drinking milk helps with calcium, but I don't know, that's not really plant-based, so never mind.
You throw that in there because, you know, one of the things about plants is a lot of the plants really block the absorption of minerals. And then if you eat foods that are high in oxalates, like, you know, spinach and coffee and stuff like that, then your body needs that calcium in order to bind with the oxalate to detoxify. But that's how you create a kidney stone. So a lot of people blame kidney stones on calcium when it's actually the result of the oxalate that needs to be neutralized, right? So that's another myth we could dispel, that, you know, calcium causes kidney stones, because it doesn't. You know, the mechanism is actually spurred on by the oxalate consumption. So
mechanisms, boys and girls, mechanisms.
How dare we invoke science? Right?
I know. We'd rather listen to your anecdotes, because that's all you've got there, isn't it, Thomas? Anecdotes. Just anecdotes.
Right. Anecdotes.
That's all you got there.
Anecdotes from Charlie.
Yes. Dear.
Well, and another one is a heart-healthy food. I mean, the heart is a muscle.
Yes.
It's a muscle. It's smooth muscle. How is an oat a heart healthy food. And I know we just ran with cholesterol, but it's just like you just accept all these things as fact without questioning them. You know, it's just crazy. But what about to counteract some of our own pro-carnivore, pro-keto propaganda? Our words. Let's take it back.
Taking it back with phrases like intermittent feasting, right? Eat when you're hungry. And species appropriate diet, which I think Bart slipped that one in on us earlier, right?
Yeah, I'm always slipping things in, Thomas.
I'm sure you are. Sneaky, this one. And species appropriate diet being meat. You know, I think we all agree that we evolved to eat meat, and all this nonsense about these plant-based foods. I mean, if you just look at the picture of the pyramid, we were already talking about how grains have to be processed in order for us to eat them. You know, all these vegetables like broccoli, carrots, cabbage, all that stuff, apples, none of that existed in nature in the form that they're in now. We wouldn't eat the natural forms of them. And if we did, it'd be out of desperation, you know.
And if you eat the processed form of those kind of things, like, for example, just to pick one at random, Greta does, or purports to, then you might end up with a child who's kind of undernourished or something, like 17-year-old Greta Thunberg, who looks about 8, literally, physically. There are no secondary sexual characteristics developing on that girl at all. She's under height, underweight,
She's 17?
She is 17 years of age.
Oh, no, I thought she was like 9 years old.
Yeah, I thought she was about 10 or 11.
She is 17 years of age.
Yeah,
Been vegan since she was 8, and that's about where her development clearly stopped.
I don't know any
both physically and mentally, I would suggest, but that's just another story.
I don't know any autistic people who don't cringe a little when they see Greta on TV screaming about something, and they're like, "Please, not her!" You know, we don't want her to be the face of autism.
Shut up! You're making us look bad.
It's like her and Roseanne Barr. It's like, please, no.
Yeah. Put them together in a room and to see who comes out alive.
Well, I'll take Roseanne Barr because at least she's funny.
Yeah.
Roseanne, if you ever want to come on and join us, if you ever find this, we'd love to have you. Just
be happy
giving
to have
the
you.
invite out.
Yeah.
Are you trying to get the show cancelled? Is that what you're trying to do?
We're already going to get it canceled with Raymond's gay frogs, you know.
And I've had a crack at Greta, so you're fucked on this one, Thomas.
Yeah,
I've had a
That's
crack
right,
at
Tom.
Greta.
You might not want to post this up there.
Be flagged.
How dare you? How dare you?
Hate crime video.
Hate crime.
Speech. Yeah.
Soy frogs.
Soy frogs.
And malnourished. What is she? Swedish?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Well, you know, from a Norwegian descendant perspective, we always pick on the Swedes anyway. So I can't
Tell you
like
what,
her by
Tell you what,
default.
Thomas, I dare you to try that with Pim.
She's on the other side of the planet, and she still hasn't sent me any gamelos. So, to hell with Pim.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Careful, Tom. Careful. She'll hear you.
Them fighting words.
All right, boys and girls. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to add? We picked on Wilford Brimley. That'll probably get us thrown off too. He's in the Actors Guild, so
that's it.
You guys, what are you guys eating now that everybody has to stay home? You guys getting any good food out of the market or what?
Just the same.
Yeah.
The same, huh? You just go pluck a cow off the hillside there in Switzerland, Corina?
Kidnaps it.
I wish.
I actually got a great deal on New York steaks yesterday. They didn't even put a limit. The manager didn't try to fight me. The butcher didn't try to fight me, which was really cool.
Which store did you go to?
Albertsons. I guess I could say the name. I don't know why I'm scared to say the name of these stores when we're on.
Because someone's going to go there and clean it out.
Well, they're gonna have to fight. They're gonna have to fight me.
There you go. Yeah, no, Albertsons, no limit on the New York steaks, $5.77 a pound.
It's
Not fantastic, but not awful.
That's $2 cheaper than Sam's Club right now. So
they were bone in,
Or
but
Costco.
now I'm taking the bones. I'm going to save them, put it in my freezer, and I'm going to make bone broth at some point when I just have like all the bones. So
that's exactly what I do. You know, because getting like the grass-fed marrow bones is a pain in the ass, and they're expensive as hell. So I go buy a pound. Lucky to find one package. It's got just a few bones in it, and it's hardly worth it making. So I save up bones, and then just like that, throw them in the freezer, and then when I'm ready to make some bone broth, throw them in the crock pot. You know, you could do it for 3 hours and get the low histamine bone broth, or you could cook them for 2 days if you want to till they fall apart. So it's a good plan.
And see how
many
environmental.
bones do you put? Sorry.
Depends on how big your crock pot is, of course.
Oh. You just fill it up?
More or less, yeah. You're just soaking bones in hot water until they fall apart. You know, salt to taste or whatever.
And just put enough water just above the bone, and then set it for like about 6 hours on high, and then drop it down to like medium, and just let it simmer the whole time. That's what I do until it empties out, and then I'll just dump more water in there. Super simple.
When I had older dogs that didn't have any teeth left, I'd let the bones dissolve so that the dogs get some of that bone that they couldn't chew anymore. So.
Oh.
But if I make bone broth with the intention of giving it to the dogs, then I don't put any salt in it at all. So. If you cook it for a really long time, it gets more gelatinous when it cools. But on the other side, it can be higher in histamine. So if you're sensitive to histamines, you don't want to cook it for more than, like 3 or 4 hours.
Unless you put it in the freezer, right, Corina? Is that what I read from you?
Yeah. So I cannot do any bone broth at all. I get a migraine no matter how few hours I cook it. But it depends. You have to try just a sip. If you get a migraine, then it's not okay. But you try whatever your body can take. So I don't do bone broth, but I just freeze my meat. Yeah.
Right. Guys, with my apologies, I'm going to have to tag out at this joke.
Do you freeze?
He really did tag out.
Or he dropped out. One of the two.
I think Pim cut the connection.
It's a good time to end it anyways.
She took out her big Viking sword and whacked off the cable. Oh, he's back.
Hello. There you go.
Say hey to Pim. Tell her I'm sorry she's Swedish.
All right, I will. All right, cool. Catch us later.
All right, buddy.
So yeah, I was just going to say how being carnivore is anti-waste. Look at that. Even the bones. Use the bones. Use every part.
Oh, that's so good that you say that. It reminds me when I was, doesn't matter, vegetarian, vegan, my waist was so big and it smelled. And now as a carnivore, I have, my waist takes much longer to fill up. So I have much less waste.
Oh, awesome.
I'm all for using the whole animal, but I don't think people have to eat nose to tail to stay healthy. I mean, if you got some sort of condition, you might need a little more of this, a little more of that. And I think everybody's threshold for fat and protein is very individualized. But, if you can use the whole animal, why not, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how was that kangaroo you were eating the other day, Joe?
It was nice. It was very much like veal, very, very lean.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it had a very slight gamey taste. But yeah, I mean, look, to be honest, it was nice compared to beef any day.
Yeah. Would you eat it again? You think you'll bother buying again?
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely.
A little change.
But as I said, yeah, definitely. I mean, but as I said, it's very, very lean. It's like 98% protein and 2% fat. And I know that I'm on a high, I know I'm on a higher protein diet, but that's just maybe a little bit too high for me. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I finally got somebody to eat some kangaroo, because that's been on my mind.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you basically, once you cook it, then you've got to let it rest for about 10 minutes. You don't want to cook it any more than medium. Okay, so medium rare is probably best. Let it rest for 10 minutes, but you cover it. And yeah, it was surprisingly tender. So,
It's really good. Did you notice that after eating it, like any time till you get hungry again? Because I know you've been talking about with ground beef, you can go a long time without eating. With the kangaroo, did it seem to process a little quicker?
Well, the thing is that I didn't have much kangaroo, so I had a big rump steak here at home. So I was starting to portion that up, and I thought, oh yeah, I feel like a bit of rump, so I don't know. Look, to be honest, it's a little bit too lean for me. So I'd have to try it again and see how long I can sustain between meals. But I think the ground beef works. It's perfect for me at the moment.
Excellent. Anyone else?
Yeah.
All right.
Pork.
I'm gonna have pork. There you go.
Pork.
That's all I eat. I don't know.
That's all you eat?
Eggs and bacon.
What cuts of pork do you like?
The butt.
Pork roast? Like a Boston butt?
Yes.
Yeah, Raymond's got a special butt rub at his house for pork butt.
That's why it's called butt rub. It's kind of a barbecue thing. So I don't use it. I just use it for my kids and my,
I smoked a pork butt about a week ago. It was fantastic.
Oh,
yeah.
Yum.
Yeah, it was like a big, 9-pound chunk.
Oh my
It came
gosh.
out really good. It was very, very tender, very almost sweet tasting. It was almost just like ham, but without the salty, briny taste. It was delicious. It was very, very tender. So.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
How do you do it? You cook a whole rump roast in a crock pot, or what do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of it's
yeah.
easy. Anybody can do it. It's so convenient.
I like
Yeah,
the
that
pork
was one
spare
of my
ribs.
fears. I mean, before I started cooking anything, when I was only eating processed food, I was like, oh my God, I can never cook meat. It's too complicated. And then I actually cooked meat, and I was like, oh, it's not that bad.
So easy
Like,
to
oh, what was I afraid of?
Don't know.
Well, because you think you're going to catch all these bacteria if you eat it when it's red or pink and all this. I mean, I think I've eaten pork even near rare.
Really?
I know not rare, but near rare, and I was fine.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, like pretty undercooked. Yeah, like some pork belly, I think. I had it fairly undercooked. It's fine.
So that's okay? That's what I'm kind of...
I've eaten raw pork many times. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Oh.
So a lot of the things they're talking about is parasites with pork. That's what they talk about. But I really don't know. I've tried raw bacon. So, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, raw bacon is cured. So,
that's
cured meat, basically, they destroy a lot of the parasites and bacteria. Almost all domestic meat has been frozen in process. And that kills off a lot of parasites. And there is no trichinosis, which was the real common, problematic parasite in pork in the past. That was eradicated from modern livestock, in first world countries before we were born, long before we were born, So trichinosis only exists in wild animals like where I live. So
like wild hogs. Yeah.
Wild hogs, bears, mountain lions, stuff like that. You can get trichinosis from them, but the meat at the store in the United States doesn't have trichinosis in it.
Oh, so that's the only thing to really avoid, basically?
That's the primary one. That was the most common parasite. So the parasitic load in modern livestock in first world countries is very low. So I mean, they deworm cattle and stuff in farm operations. If you talk to our buddy Nitty, she'll tell you that like you can do that successfully with just by feeding them charcoal and stuff like that. You don't even have to use the chemical dewormers and stuff like that. So, but trichinosis was a real problem, you know, up until I think the 30s or something. People commonly got it because it's kind of like a little worm, and it would persist in the meat if it wasn't really well cooked. But it doesn't exist in, you know, the standard livestock anymore. So a few countries still have problems with it occasionally, but most got rid of it a long time ago. So
it's just made up that you can't.
No,
really
people that fear is just still there, you know. And every package of meat you buy says you got to cook this, make sure the internal temperature is 135, 145, 165 degrees or whatever. And that's really just they're covering their ass. I mean, you're more likely to get sick from like a bacterial infection, you know. But I mean, think about it, people eat raw sushi all the time, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, some fish have more parasites than others. All that tuna and stuff is supposed to be frozen on the boat. So that kills off a lot of parasites. It won't necessarily kill all parasites. In fact, if you got an animal from Canada that's got trichinosis, chances are that strain of trichinosis won't die if you freeze the meat. But if you're in the southern United States and you got an animal with trichinosis, that strain will probably die, or that species will probably die if the meat's frozen. So some of the strains are more resistant to freezing, but that's really only pertains to wild game.
Here's the thing. So even cooking might not kill. If that meat is contaminated, it's contaminated. Even cooking won't take care of that. So
really?
Sometimes bacteria generates a lot of toxins. So even if the bacteria dies, they've produced toxins. You know, it's just like think of Botox, right? They're taking the poison from botulinum and injecting in your face to paralyze your face, right? They're not putting the live bacteria in there. They're putting in the poison that it generated, right? Mm-hmm. So that could still be in a meat or something like that if it was. But at the same time, we were talking about high liver the other day. People eat rancid liver, you know, or really ripe cheeses, you know, and so some of it our bodies deal with fine. And if your stomach acid, your stomach acid's really good, it kills most of that stuff off.
You're still alive, Raymond.
That's right. I tried it. I mean, I tried it for a couple of weeks actually, and it was like a month age.
Oh.
It smells horrible.
Actually, no, it's not. It's not as bad as you think. I mean, well, at first it smelled horrible, but you get used to it because it's very pleasurable.
So
no, you do. Yeah. It's one of those
you get used to.
Yeah. I mean, it's like cheese. Well, it's like cheese. You know those nasty cheese that smells real bad, and then you eat it and get used to it, and then afterwards it smells good to you. Yeah. So yeah.
And then you don't have any friends. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Exactly. Right.
Right. Yes.
Now I've never tried the maggot cheese. You guys seen that, right?
Yeah, I know it's not that uncommon in Italy. You know those Italians.
Yeah, it's from Saladino.
Oh, you know about it, Joe?
Good, yeah, of course I do. I've never tried it.
It's usually gorgonzola, right?
Not sure. I don't think it is. It is gorgonzola. They inject it with the bacteria, but yeah, this is just a really gross cheese. I mean, I don't eat cheese, thank God, but yeah, you see them that they'll scoop it out and they'll put it on a slice of bread, and then you'll see the close up and you see all the maggots on the cheese.
Oh, shush! Oh my God!
Yeah, so basically they leave the cheese out and they let the flies go on there and
I thought I heard you wrong. I was hoping that wasn't what I heard, but it was.
Yeah. Look it up. Just put in.
God.
So it's got all this larvae in it, and they let it hatches in the cheese and
flavor.
Why?
Protein.
Slaves.
Protein.
Yeah.
Protein.
Yeah. It's
Oh Jesus!
It's a delicacy over there.
It's too late to pray, Charmaine.
Casu marzu, is that what it's called? Casu marzu?
Yeah. Yeah, just put in
God.
maggot cheese and it'll come up. It's from
I'm looking it
Sardinia,
up. Oh my
which is
God.
just, you got Sicily. It's just slightly up from Sicily.
What the heck? Is
Yeah, it's
that
disgusting.
okay?
I love it with a side of balut, you know.
Well, it's. I think it's.
Those go
I
well
think it's
together.
It's perfect
I think
pairing.
it might be illegal. It
It might be
possibly in
illegal.
the other part
That's
in the other
disgusting.
parts of Italy. Have you seen the photo?
I mean, I see this thing. I'm not saying a clip. It's not really. I don't see the things really well.
No,
in
you
this photo.
need to go onto YouTube and you'll see it there.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Put a link just for you. I put a link just for you.
Oh, good. Well, I don't know if it's good or not, but let me see.
Well, yeah, you'll get to see the tasty cheese.
And sorry, this brings up one little subject. But
Oh
like,
my
it's
God.
interesting moving from plant-based to now bug-based, like the vegan bug world, like, you know, how they have like cricket
That's-
shakes or whatever now.
That's right. That's right. Because my cousin was talking about that, how he's okay with eating insects. And I'm like,
That's really a thing.
I guess so.
Yeah,
Why
I
is
mean,
that
to
okay
get
to
their
them,
protein.
but not?
From the vegans.
I don't understand.
you can get cricket flour now. So
Right.
the
I don't understand.
Yeah, that's
Like,
why they say veganism is
oh my God.
like friendlier, like saves the planet and stuff. So they never count all the insects and rodents and all the animals that have to be killed to even get the field
To
clean.
harvest their field, yeah.
Yeah.
Must
So
be.
they never talk about that.
No, but when you confront them about that, they all of a sudden it's but it's not the same as killing a cow.
What?
That's what I've been told. It's not the same as killing a cow.
They have feelings though. The maggots.
I know the maggots, the insects. I mean, it's life.
not
Life is
the-
life.
Would
that's,
you rather-
That's what a
would you
vegan
rather
told me
eat
once.
1,000 rats or one cow? I'm just saying.
Oh my God.
Would you rather eat 500 squirrels and 12 rats, or would you rather eat a turkey? I'm just saying.
Wouldn't it be better just to kill one life, instead of however many? I
That's a
agree.
good point.
Yeah.
I've eaten
And
an
she-
earthworm before. It does not taste good.
Way to go, Charmaine. Look at you, adventurous.
Did somebody double dog dare you?
I know,
Part
right?
of a event like the
I
60-hour
guess.
one I did. We were just eating stuff in the wild. It was like foraging / eating what's out there, and we ate the earthworms, and we ate this other worm. I don't know what it's called, but it tasted like popcorn. I forgot. It was like a small little yellow worm. I don't know what that is.
Mealworm?
Mealworm? Yes.
We call them witchetty
Oh,
grubs
maybe a
here.
mealworm. Yeah.
Witchetty grubs.
Yeah.
Do you eat them regular there, Joe?
I've never had one, but apparently they taste like peanuts.
Yeah, it was a mealworm. Yeah, it tasted actually pretty good.
Peanuts.
But the
We
earthworm
should grub.
tasted disgusting. Don't eat
Well.
an earthworm.
All right.
Yeah, I know those worms that live in the mango trees, supposedly pretty big, pretty good. Those really long ones that cut out of the
Oh my
mango
God.
Oh,
roots.
yeah. That's the centipede looking one you're talking about, right?
I don't know. It's a big white worm. They cut
Oh,
the
never mind. That's a different
mango. You know the mango grows.
Yeah.
Mangroves. That's what it is. Mangroves. They, those trees that kind of come out of the water around the,
Like
of the
swamp.
ocean.
Yeah.
Swamps. Yeah. Yeah. So there's some sort of really long worm that grows in the branches. And they're supposedly really tasty.
Oh,
I've never eaten one, but
oh my God.
Yeah. I'd rather fast.
I'm not a worm eater. I just throw it on YouTube.
The mealworms are good, but yeah.
Did you eat them raw, or did you toast them up?
No, they just gave it to you. It's alive. You just eat it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Excellent.
okay.
Well, in desperate times, perhaps. Not
Mm.
today.
Still carnivore, I guess. Bugs.
I
don't
know.
Why not?
That's what I thought.
Hey,
Why not?
why not? All right, guys. Well, I think we killed this subject today. So put a few nails in that coffin. A few worms, too. I want to thank everybody for being here. It was nice to see everybody. I hope everybody's having a good time staying quarantined at home, eating lots of meat. And people, leave us some comments in the section below. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about in the future. Maybe give it a thumbs up, pass the link on to people who might enjoy the information. And subscribe to the channel. That's a big help. So again, until next time, everybody out there, feel better, eat lots of meat.